tonight. For those of you that don't know, I'm Penny Collins. I am the vice chair of the school board now and the chair of this committee, which is a bond committee. Our group is underneath the umbrella of the school board. It's a short-term committee. We don't have any authority. We're not making massive and serious decisions here. We are restarting the work of the proposed bond project that had its a little bit of an untimely meeting of the beginning of COVID. So there was a ton of work done. There's some drawings that were started, but right in the middle of that process, COVID shut everything down. Some folks may have come out last April to the listening session where it was presented like, here's everything that we got to, and what does the public think, and where are we at? And so a big piece of that was we heard loud and clear folks say, like, we want this fleshed out, we want to know the ins and outs of every possible plan, and if we do this, we want to do it right. So we want to see plans that actually meet the needs of the district and bring those tasks. So the board has restarted a new committee, so there's a little bit of rework because a lot of us are new to it, and so we're asking the same questions and we're kind of going through a little bit of the same process to have a good final product. So our committee has some board members on it. It has some of our staff and some members of the community. So we have a little cross section. We're talking every week about things like the cafeteria, athletics tonight, performing arts next week. Then we'll put our heads together about what do we recommend the board do next, and bring that back to the full board. So you're not going to see much different tonight from things you've seen in the past if you have seen previous plans. You might hear some of the same questions asked. This might be also leading to you too. So this is a workshop. There will be time for public comment. I will have to keep it pretty brief for us to do the work we're going to do. And there will be a presentation about athletics. Usually we do public comment first. I would like for the time you have spent to come here tonight for you to get to hear from the athletics director as well before you give public comment if you have it, in case that helps, inform what you want to say. So we'll do a little bit out of order. We'll do the presentation from our athletics director. We'll do public comment. I will time people and keep that 2 minutes apiece because we only have 2 hours tonight. And then the committee will do their workshop, which is a lot of discussing, asking questions. I take a lot of notes, and then we're going to take that forward to the next step. So now that I've got all your attention, I'm going to do a weird faulty thing where some of our committee has never been to the gym. So our group is going to tromp down to the gym, check it out, and come back here. So you're welcome to come down to the gym with us and check it out, or stay here, but that's our plan. So, yeah? All right. locker room, courtesy of the basketball team. Thank you, Gemma. Nothing beats that first-hand experience. So we're going to turn it over to our athletic director and learn a little bit about our programming and what the needs are.
Does this sound okay? Can everybody hear me okay? Perfect. All right, good evening, everybody. My name is Nate Priest. I'm the athletic administrator here at Great New Gloucester for the high school and the middle school. Just want to take a quick moment to thank you all so much for spending some time with us tonight. I know this has been an ongoing conversation, and it's great to see such a great turnout, so thank you so much. I'm going to first talk about our current field layout that we have. This is the diagram, if everybody can see that okay. Field 1 is our main game field, so for football, high school and middle school football play their games there. Soccer plays their games there. We do occasional lacrosse on that field, as well as the baseball field. Field number 2, that's inside the track. That's where field hockey plays. Lacrosse plays as well, and of course track and field uses that in the spring. Field number 3 is the high school softball field area, as well as a practice field for soccer in the fall. Way one out by the jumping pits and off of the track. Football practices out there, as well as some of the throwing events happen in that general area. Field number 6 is a middle school field, so that's the middle school baseball field, as well as soccer. They play their games there. Lacrosse as well. Field number 7, the lower field down in the bowl, is field hockey. Softball plays down there, lacrosse as well, and field number 8 and 9 are more practice fields. They're out closer to the start of the Turkey Trot and Libby Hill. So we're going to kind of reference back to this diagram here a few times. So I don't expect anybody to be able to read this, but this will be online either later tonight or tomorrow morning. But this is basically a breakdown hours in terms of number of hours for games and practices for all those fields that I just showed you. So this will be online. I'm going to give you kind of a quick synopsis here in a few minutes, but please refer to the website. You'll be able to find all this information online shortly. That includes high school and middle school information. So high school field usage hours. This is the synopsis I had just mentioned. So field number 1 was that main competition field. So baseball plays, football in the fall, soccer in the fall. So field number 1 sees about 90 hours of use in the fall. Not a lot of practice happens on that field, but most of our games do happen between soccer and football. In the springtime, it's about 180 hours. So that's the baseball practice field. So first team, JV, varsity baseball practice and play their home games there. Field number 2, which was the field space inside the track, where field hockey plays, track and field uses that space, as well as lacrosse. In the fall, it's approximately 108 hours. In the spring, about 370 hours. So that gets a lot of use in the springtime. Field number 3, which is the softball diamond, and a practice field for soccer in the fall. It's about 86 hours of use in the fall, approximately 180 hours of use in the spring for softball. Field 4 is a practice field for soccer. Nothing really happens there too much in the spring, but for the fall usage, it's approximately 90 hours of usage in the fall. And then field number 5, which is that outer field, football practices there, as well as some of the throwing events in that general area. It's about 90 hours of use in the fall and approximately 80 hours of use in the spring. And then as far as the middle school fields go, I didn't have any conclusive numbers for field number 8 or 9, which are the lower fields. Field 6, which is the baseball diamond, as well as the lacrosse area, soccer area, gets approximately 135 hours of use in the fall and 130 hours of use in the spring. And then field number 7 is down lower, where field hockey plays in the fall. And some lacrosse happens down there as well. Field number 7 gets 72 hours of usage in the fall and approximately 130 hours in the spring. So it's a lot of time spent on our athletic fields between the high school and the middle school. So our fall athletics, we do offer a pretty full slate here. High school, we offer cheering, cross country for boys and girls, field hockey, both JV and varsity teams. Football, we offer JV and varsity. Golf, we have JV and varsity. Boys and girls soccer, both JV and varsity. And volleyball, JV and varsity teams. Middle school teams, cross country, we have boys and girls. Field hockey is generally one team. Football, boys and girls soccer, both 7th and 8th grade levels there. And then this past fall, we actually did start a volleyball. We generally started a volleyball program and got that up and running this past fall. So here's some high school percentage participation numbers and their percentages over the last few years. So we have data that goes back a little bit further than 2017, but I figured the last 6 or 7 years we give a pretty good snapshot of what we're looking at. So the blue bar that goes across the top is the total school enrollment from 2017 all the way through 2024, current year. So you can see the numbers of enrolled kids there. The total participation numbers is that third bar down, or the top yellow bar, if you will, the fall total participation. And then the participation percentage numbers. So for instance, back in 2017, 2018, we had 590 students enrolled at G&G High School. 188 of those students participated in the fall sport, which is about 32% of our student body that year. So you can kind of see the trends over the last few years and how they've gone. Went from 32% back in 2017-18, jumped to 42%, stayed pretty high. COVID obviously happened, 2020, 2021, where you see a dip down to 28.5%, and then we've rebounded nicely from COVID. And this past fall, we had 197 participants, which is about a third of our student population. As far as winter athletics go, quite a few programs, as you can see here. So on basketball, the basketball side of things, we offer first team, JV, and varsity program. Girls basketball, we have JV and varsity. Unified basketball, cheering, boys ice hockey, we're a cooperative team, so we partner with Levitt, Poland, and Oak Hill. It's a 4-team cooperative program for ice hockey. On the boys side, the girls side, we have a cooperative team with Greeley, so it's a 2-team co-op. We do offer ice hockey for both boys and girls. Indoor track and field for boys and girls, alpine skiing, Nordic skiing, swimming. We have one cooperative individual over the last 4 years who swam with EL, has competed with them, and is trained by an Edward Little coach. And then wrestling, we're also a cooperative team there, where we compete and are trained by the Wyndham coaches, and we also have Westbrook join us. So it's Grady Gloucester, Wyndham, and Westbrook for wrestlers. And as far as middle school, we have boys basketball, 7th grade, 8th grade, and an expansion team. Girls basketball, 7th and 8th grade teams. Unified basketball, Nordic skiing, and wrestling at the middle school level. So looking again at the high school winter participation numbers, going back to 2017. Again, 590 students were enrolled back in 2017, 2018. 183 people participated, to about 31% of the student enrollment at the time. You can see kind of how those numbers have ebbed and flowed over the years. We went from 31% up to 39% the following year in 2018, 2019, and stayed pretty consistent. COVID happened, dropped down to less than 1 out of every 4 participated, but then we've been trending in the right direction ever since that COVID season. And so this particular winter, we have 164 participants and 27% of our student body. And then the spring season, again, a full slate. So we have first team JV and varsity baseball, JV and varsity softball, boys lacrosse, JV and varsity, girls lacrosse, JV and varsity, outdoor track and field for boys and girls. And those are all MPA sponsored events. We do offer Ultimate Frisbee and Unified Bocce. They're not MPA sponsored or Maine Principals Association sponsored sports, but we do offer those here as well. And at the middle school, we offer 7th and 8th grade baseball. We have a softball program comprised mostly of 8th graders, but we do have some younger kids, 7th graders, lower participate there. Boys lacrosse, girls lacrosse, and outdoor track and field. And the total student enrollment, so again, going back to 2017, 2018, 590 students back then, 184 participate that spring. right around that 30% mark, 31%. You can see how that trended. The spring of 2019, or spring of 2020 was the 2019-2020 school year, so as we know, that data is not really all that conclusive. Sign-ups had started, COVID happened, some kids had signed up, some hadn't by that point, so that shows 28%. The following spring, we were still dealing with COVID, it stayed roughly at 28%, but since then it's rebounded nicely as well, right around 34%, so 1 out of every 3. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about our high school gyms. You have kind of a snapshot of what our participation numbers look like. Usage is something we're going to be talking about here now. So our high school gym is small, right? So anybody who's been to a varsity basketball game knows that is oftentimes shoulder to shoulder. And I've been to maybe 15. I'm trying to think back gyms over the years. I was a track and field and cross-country guy, so I didn't spend a ton of time in high school gyms, but I've been to about 15 or so. And out of those 15, I would have to say G&G has the smallest gym of those that I've been to. So the National Federation of State High School Associations, which is the governing body, they develop the rules for interscholastic athletics. And so all MPA, or Maine Principal Association schools, abide by these rules that the NFHS puts out. So according to Rule 1, Section 2, Article 1 of the 2023-24 basketball rules, there shall be at least 3 feet and preferably 10 feet of unobstructed space outside the boundaries of the gym. So limitations on the gym space. So we do meet National Federation of High School basketball recommendations regarding the 2 baselines. So when you're in the gym, you know, the baseline, the side that's closest to the offices of our PE teachers, that's roughly 10 feet, a little bit more than 10 feet. On the other side, the side that's closest to the entryway or the lobby area is a little bit more than 5 feet. We are out of compliance with the National Federation of High School basketball recommendations regarding the sidelines and the bleachers. The recommendation states that there must be at least 3 feet of unobstructed space between the boundary and the bleachers, and G&G unobstructed space on game days is 1 foot to nil. So it's a little bit of a gray area. So we are technically in compliance in terms of when the bleachers are pulled out, there is that 3 feet minimum walkway, right? But then you add spectators into the first row, you have kids walking, people trying to get to and from the snack shack or whatever it might be, and that's where it becomes obstructed. So that's just something to think about. Anybody who's been to a game and seen kids walking onto the court during a game and things like that, and that's what this rule essentially is talking about. So other limitations on gym space, because of the number of participants and the number of teams, practices generally begin at 2:15 and continue through 9:30 p.m. as a standard operating procedure. This time of year, Unified Basketball has started up, so it pushes everybody a little bit later. Those students need to go right after school, and that pushes our varsity teams later tonight. For instance, our varsity team, you guys are practicing until 9:15 tonight, right? So that's generally what we've been dealing with, and that'll be the case for the rest of the season. The locker rooms too, so we just took a tour of the locker rooms. We have challenges during boys and girls double headers. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And we have old and dilapidated lockers. Anybody that saw the boys' locker room would agree with that. So some of those lockers certainly are old and outdated. And some of the athletic field challenges. The high school game fields, that's that field number 1, the one that the baseball diamond's on and a football team and soccer teams play on. Overuse leads to poor conditions at the end of the fall season. So beginning of season usually is in pretty good shape. The grass field's in pretty good shape, depending on the summer and the rain that we get. But by the end of the season, the overuse, the clubs that use it, combined with a lot of use, as you saw based on those hours, really leaves it in really rough shape at the end of the season. So by the end of the year, it's in relatively poor shape. It has an uneven playing surface, which can lead to injuries. And then just unsafe playing conditions. If we do get a lot of weather, which is something that happened this past fall, there was some slick mud spots and things like that on the field as well. And then as far as the baseball field goes, many of us know fly balls can conflict with the track and lacrosse programs. We can't really schedule a baseball game at the same time as a track practice. It makes it very difficult on that end. And the conditions of the dugouts, this applies to the softball as well. they need some attention as well. And then our spectator experience, so talking about our fields, just a lack of restroom facilities, positioning of the grandstand and press box in relation to sunset. You'll notice, you're sitting in the stands and you're looking west and the sun's setting during those later games, and that can be very difficult. The press box warms up incredibly hot in some of those early season games. And our home and away spectators that share space. So we have a fairly unique setup at our field where we have the one side of bleachers and our home and away spectators share that space. So that's a couple of challenges there. And then our gym, these three factors pose safety risks during games. Limited seating that we have, the sideline, the walk space, and the proximity to the court. And so some of our needs, we have increased gym space, a need for it, which would benefit our basketball program, our cheering program, indoor track and field, and all spring sports. Additional locker rooms. So I just mentioned a little bit ago how we have 2 locker rooms now, but having 2 locker room spaces does increase the difficulty of accommodating boys and girls doubleheaders during an evolving schedule. So our schedule is very much evolving in the sport of basketball. And having only 2 locker rooms for when we host varsity doubleheaders makes that very challenging. So we have boys and girls coming in from various teams or whatever it might be. And so only having 2 locker rooms just makes it difficult to try to find an adequate space for everybody. And our multi-sport turf field, dimensions large enough for soccer, which is the largest dimension field. It can accommodate soccer, football, field hockey, and lacrosse. Those are our needs. We talked about the condition of the field. That would certainly play into that. In addition, additional field space to separate baseball, track, and field and lacrosse, so we can schedule baseball games and have a track practice happening at the same time. I think that would be ideal. Same with lacrosse, having a lacrosse game while baseball is happening. That would be ideal as well. So a possible relocation of the high school baseball field from its current location because of the safety concerns that relate to fly balls going onto the track surface. Renovation of high school softball dugouts and the backstop. I think that the softball field's in a pretty good spot where it is now, but I think that it does need a little bit of attention as far as some of those structures go. And the renovation of lower middle school athletic fields and dugouts as well. The dugouts need paint and just a little bit of TSC. I think that is all I have for you tonight.
All right, thanks. All right, so what we're going to do now is do public comment. We'll put it in here, see if I can just move the other side and pull it down. Just for my own knowledge, no pressure, show of hands, how many people plan on saying something? Oh, okay, so we don't have I welcome all of you to speak. I'm just trying to figure out how much time I want to plan. Okay, so I'm gonna move this way, unless Chris yells at me not to. Is this okay, Chris?
That's fine.
Okay. So we'll put this here for now. And folks are welcome to come up and share your concerns or your questions. We're not going to be able to answer your question on the spot, but I'll write them down, and then we're going to talk and discuss. And if you have a question, I will definitely read it out loud later when we're in this in the workshop conversation, if that's helpful. Or if you just want to show your support or put a plug in for something, step right up.
Thank you for having us tonight.
Oop.
I'll speak out, I guess. No.
Okay.
It's like an on switch.
Oh, there's an on, there's a little switch.
How about that?
There we go.
Thank you for hosting us tonight and all the different listening sessions you're having, presenting this. I'm a father of 2 daughters that attend G&G. The JV girls soccer coach this year, and I'm a volunteer JV girls basketball coach for the Institute Fair. And I am excited that all of you got to see our gym. And I don't know what you're waiting for. We get two great basketball teams playing there this year, and you get a chance to know that we're here tonight. If you're here Saturday, you saw two great teams playing and maximizing the absolute space that a basketball game can be played in. And really, it becomes a safety issue. And as someone that has seen games around the state, multiple gyms, there's not another gym that has the confines that we have. And it's amazing that none of our boys have been hurt seriously the way they play, because they go up and down, and our girls. We have two of the best teams in the state of Maine playing on, quite frankly, one of the worst gyms. It's a great home court advantage, but we've had one of our players seriously hurt, missing time right now in our girl program, and we had a player from Freeport 2 years ago break her arm running into a wall that frankly shouldn't happen. Something we need to consider. But I also want you to consider this, and what I don't want to see happen is groups pitted against each other. Because, I mean, these are multi-sport athletes. This is a small, tight-knit community that cares about their kids. And I don't want to see athletics, different sports pitted against each other. I don't want to see athletics pitted against arts and academics as well. We need all of these things. When you look around the communities that surround this area, Wyndham, Oxford Hills, Lewiston, Yarmouth, Greeley, Cumberland, all of them have these facilities and are working towards them. They have a fine arts program in these places that are unbelievable, that get used by the community year-round. They have fields that get used by them. They have gyms that get used by them. And this is something that we need, not because of 10 years ago, we need it for the future. And that's something I see as someone that's worked in multiple places around the state. We need to step forward. I'm excited by that, but I'm also worried about that idea that it could come to a point where you're pitting the group against each other. And that's not what I want. And I have kids that are in athletics, but I want them to support their friends that are in the arts. And I want that to be a part of the thought process as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, tough act to follow. Anyone want to take it?
I am Ryan Cramlin. I'm a fourth generation community member here in town. Former student athlete right here at the high school. Father to two young student athletes here in the district also. To kind of echo what Tim said, we are due for upgrades. That gym you guys just toured is largely unchanged since my mother played basketball in that gym in the early 1980s. The exception of taking the stage out and creating a little more room on that one end. It's about the same as it was when she played here, when I watched games here, and even outside on most of the athletic fields. Most of that space has been largely the same since I was in middle school here. I remember when the varsity field was moved from inside the track to where it is now, and that dedication, and that was huge for us, for this community back then. This town has always been incredibly supportive of all of our athletics. They're always community events, so anything we can do to kind of keep up with the Joneses when it comes to these surrounding towns. Freeport, Falmouth, Greeley, as far as number of students within their school systems, pretty close to what Raymond Gloucester is. A little bit more, but I mean, within the same realm. And you look at their facilities that they have when you go to these other sporting events, and we've certainly fallen behind. I think we owe it to our current students, to our future students. I hear more and more talk on a regular basis of people looking to move to different communities because these communities have better facilities to offer their children. And again, I grew up here, my parents grew up here, my kids are gonna grow up here. We wanna see more of our current residents stay here and have a reason to stay here. And maybe even more people wanna come to this community, to come to these schools. So to have something better to offer have a ton of open field space to be used by the non-school events. We have some little league fields around, but as far as other open spaces for soccer fields, for lacrosse, for football, there isn't much. So, I'm also the president of the Patriot Soccer Club. We've been lucky enough to hold our annual Columbus Day tournament here at the high school, middle school for over 20 years. So to have that space available to us has been awesome. Certainly something we don't take for granted. But anything in the future to have more space to offer, to have better amenities to offer, I think can only be a positive for our town.
Good evening. My name is Ian McCarthy. I coach the varsity boys basketball team. I'm just here to volunteer one of my players. So we've talked a lot about upgrades that are absolutely needed. A lot of the guys on the team play multiple sports. They're very passionate about the sports. As Mr. Priest mentioned, we have roughly 35 to 40% of our student body that play sports. And although the upgrades are necessary, I think it's almost as important to have more options. And I'm just talking about the high schoolers. We focus mostly on education, and as hard as these guys work, and all the teams getting home at 10 o'clock often on a weeknight, just because of practice, can present a challenge, let alone when we play away games and we're home at 11:30. Depending on how long the bus drive is. So that's for high schoolers. I also have 2 children growing up in the community. I live right in Gray. My daughter's 4, my son's 8. And I was very surprised to see that I coach my son in the youth basketball, and he plays 3 sports as well. But because of the lack of gym space, I'll give you an example, and this is happening every night at the Dunn School. They are practicing, and this is 3rd and 4th grade, from 7:45 to 8:45. My son goes to bed at 7, so it doesn't really work out well. No, I say 7, it's probably 8. But in any event, it's late. We cancel those practices. The gym space is not conducive for younger kids at Dunn. Forget the time. But again, if we're focused on academics, and clearly we're a community that's passionate about sports, we need our kids practicing much earlier, home earlier with their families, in bed earlier, more time to study. So that's one component. And then I've been here 7 years. We probably have one of the most passionate communities in terms of sports, fans in general. You go to some of our playoff games. I've coached here for 5 years with these guys. I volunteered the last 4 years. Our gym's full every game, regular season, but when you go to a playoff game, the crowd quadruples, probably more than that. Henry can speak to that. I know there are more people that would come to our games if we had the space. It's pretty intimidating as an adult to walk the length of the gym in front of a student body and crowd and find a seat. And I can't even imagine what that would be like if I had trouble walking, or was in a position where I needed a little more space to find a seat. Trying to watch my grandson or granddaughter play. So I'll just throw that out there. And then also, from a safety standpoint, the 3-foot space is critical when we're playing, not just because we're flying into the stands, but when the fans are walking up and down the sidelines, tracking in dirt and water. These guys are moving 100 miles an hour, and they slip and fall, and all of a sudden I've got to have a conversation with their parents that you're going to have to miss your first year of college because you wrecked your ankle sliding on dirt because we're 3 feet from the court. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Anyone else?
So I can't let Ian get away with all of it. So for those that don't know me, I was the first year varsity soccer coach here, and the facilities haven't changed since I think my dad played. I heard you, Ryan, say that too, but we can go back to the 60s on that. He actually joked that the backboards in the gym were the same that were there when he played. But I want to talk to you more from a parent standpoint. I think you guys should be talking to these guys, the student body that are here at the school. They experience this place every single day. The science labs here haven't changed since, I don't know, since the place was probably built. So whatever that date was, I probably don't want to know. But you know, from a facilities standpoint, the student athletes in the school work incredibly hard. There's some gentlemen over there that played for me this fall. Clearly having a better season than we did in the fall, but we'll leave that alone. But at the same time, you know, there's some great students here that can give you more advice than I think even us as parents can. The drawings that we've looked at, good luck, because there's a lot of different pieces that I think if we structure this thing from an athletic standpoint, the community is going to struggle if you don't look at it from the student athlete standpoint as well. But you know, being part of this, and for the first time, those that don't know, I'm covering for Jesse, who's on maternity leave. I don't think I've been in the school since 1997, so walking through the gym and these hallways, not much has changed, and seeing what these guys deal with, both boys and girls, in their locker rooms is an embarrassment for visiting teams to walk into. So it's a little disheartening when you have teams achieving what they have and visiting teams walking in and seeing it. So I want you to really kind of think about or consider talking to the students and the student athletes that are here from performing arts, whatever it may be. They're going to be a greater value than I can share with you whatsoever, because I will have bias in the soccer field because it was terrible. But at the same time, these kids can give you greater feedback, so I really think dig deeper into the student body, listen to the guys and girls that are here, and take their word seriously for what you're going to recommend moving forward with this project.
Thank you.
Hi everybody, Dana Welch, middle school PE and health, community member for 42 years, and I was a student here 13 or so years, staff member 21 years, and I've coached a number of sports both in this district and surrounding districts. I can tell you that we have good facilities, but we're lacking a little bit in the quality and quantity at times. I really appreciate the work that you put in, giving us all the numbers we need. Really appreciate the school board's work in making sure that our taxes aren't inflated too much. But I do strongly feel like our facilities need some attention. And I'm going to support that any way I can. My son and I were driving over here. He's the one in the back finishing up his math homework. And I was asking him the 4 times that we went to high school games, 3 boys games, 2, one girls game, I believe, 20-point plus wins. Nice job. I asked him, do you think that gym is big enough? And he said, no, I don't think so, not so much. And he said, not so much, was his exact response. I'm very concerned with the safety. I know Tim mentioned that. I know that there was the injury there. I was actually here at the time when that happened. Pretty gruesome. Fairly satisfied with the middle school facilities. The more I go to other middle schools and see their gyms, I feel like they've got a pretty good one. Maybe a little short on space, but pretty well maintained, pretty safe. I'm very concerned here. I see a number of kids and adults walking within the boundaries of the basketball court during the game. Wet, sandy shoes all over the place. Very concerned with safety. I'm also concerned with people sitting next to me when a ball is passed to somebody and it's mostly caught. It doesn't go out of bounds and hit somebody. It's very tight. It's a very tight space. My parents are in their mid-70s, still live in Gray, and I did look at their high school yearbook a long time ago. Same basketball hoops, up on the side, very antiques. But I do think it's time to upgrade. We do really need to put some money into these facilities here. Again, really appreciate all your efforts with the school board and maintaining reasonable taxes and your work on exploring this. Thank you.
button. Oh, there you go.
Okay. Thank you for having this session. My name is Jonathan Lyons. I am the president of the youth football team here in Greater New Gloucester. I can't stress enough how important it is for the athletic fields, not only here at the school, but all the different fields. As a parent of a son who has come all the way through, he's a freshman in high school this year, what we're not recognizing is that I don't know, I'd be curious to see some of the numbers for the usage for the hours for all these facilities. That does not include what all of our youth programs are using these facilities for as well. So that only includes your high school and middle school teams, which is 7th grade and on. So we're not including anybody from 1st grade all the way up. And if we're supposed to be feeding the high school program, you know, we're trying to teach kids from 3rd, 4th, and 5th and 6th football, what they need to be doing so we can have a successful high school team. We can't do that with the facilities that we have today. If you come to a Friday night game, you probably see me running the chain gang on the side, volunteering my time, and I can tell you 9 times out of 10, I highly doubt that you have an opposing team sitting in our bleachers. All of those opposing teams are standing behind me, almost taking the field because they're yelling and screaming behind us who are trying to keep the kids safe. So it's not very conducive out there. And it makes it very difficult to have a successful youth team to support our middle school and high school teams. So it's just very important from that standpoint. You know, we're super centrally located. We're right off the turnpike. You know, I would like to think that we could host and have more, you know, tournaments and different things if we had the facilities to support that. And not only is that going to be beneficial for our school, for our kids to have that experience, but for our town, all the businesses of the town, that we could bring more if we had the facilities, and we don't have that here. I didn't grow up here. I grew up further north. We have a big high school. You know, so it's really discouraging from that standpoint when our youth don't have the voice like everybody else has said. Our kids are practicing until 9 o'clock at night because there's no basketball areas for us to practice, and everybody's fighting for times and that kind of thing. So I just like to make sure that we take into consideration all the other groups that are using these facilities, not just the middle school and high school. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Angela Bishop. I am a parent to 3 students in the district at 3 different schools currently. And I wanted to voice my opinion and show support for all of the bonds that are going up. So tonight for the athletics, I think that it's so important to so many students in our district, but also to our families and our community. Improving the athletic program and infrastructures and field space and green space is so vitally important to our students and to our community. We as community members and taxpayers need to be prepared to modernize and keep up with all these infrastructures and buildings and green spaces in our community that serve the people of our community. We need to do this from time to time so that our value don't depreciate across our buildings and the conditions go into disrepair. We need to attract young families to our communities and keep them here and have them be proud and have the students be proud to be here. If we don't do this, I think that we'll find that families will want to leave and go to other communities. It's important for our students to know that their community members care about them, about their interests, about their health, their well-being, their education, and really what it comes down to is that we care about their future.
basketball team, and I guess recently, according, like, since we're talking about the gym and all that, there's been a leak at the far side for a little bit now, and we weren't able to practice for like 2 days or something, and we had to just use like half the court for like another day or two, and then even recently after the snow came, it started coming back, and we had to again move to like the other side of the court. So it makes it tough when like already a lot of teams are, you know, trying to fit in the time to come and practice, and then when we finally do, we can only utilize half of the already small court. So speaking of that, I was just at my friend's house the other day, and we're watching film, and every, you know, few seconds there's just, like everybody's been saying, so many people coming in and out and just spread, you know, dirt and water and stuff, and I think it can really get, you know, to be a problem. So it's really what I'm thinking right now. And one more thing, the rims on the side rims, one of them's been bent forward as long as I can remember, and then another one just the other day. Might have been us, but I just noticed it's bent too, so that's all I really gotta say.
You also represent us well in track and field, I understand.
Yeah, I'm a three-sport athlete right now.
What's your experience on the outdoor field?
Yeah, so in cross country, I guess we don't really use the main fields that Mr. Priest has been talking about. I know our track just got painted and stuff, so I think the track itself isn't terrible, but I know also kind of what Mr. Priest was saying earlier with like scheduling baseball and like track and like lacrosse. It's like obviously tough because you can't really have, you know, all this stuff going on behind the baseball field when there's balls flying everywhere. That's about all I have, because for track, I'm really only on the track. I don't use a lot of the other fields. I played baseball freshman year, and I know the field is not the best either. But it's been a minute, so I can't really attest to that super hard.
When can everyone in this committee come see you guys play basketball next?
Next Thursday, Kennebunk. No, we got Yarmouth this Thursday away. So girls are home. No. Someone told me girls are home back there.
We'll look online. How about we look online?
All right. We're both away on Thursday. Doubleheader Thursday.
Thank you.
6 o'clock probably.
Hi, I'm Sherry Hebert. So I am a mom and step-grandparent to Aiden and Noah. I have been here with my stepsons. One graduated in 03, the other one graduated in 07. And believe it or not, there was a different configuration at the time. So the gym looked very different. We had wooden bleachers, which sat a lot more spectators, a lot more fans. There was a stage that you could cram probably a good 75 to 100. And we lost that space with the 2008 renovation. So the snack shack did move, so we did get some space in that regard, but we lost the entire back wall. And not that it was perfect then, because it was an old gym and it needed to be redone. But there was another gym, there was a West gym, kind of where the cafetorium is now. So we had alternate spaces that other teams could use, or you could use it for recreation, that aren't here now. So when you run into a gym issue where it's too small and people are walking on the court, and we had to suspend a summer game after a huge rainstorm because parents and people were walking on the side, and it was pouring, and it was sliding, and it was dangerous. So we had no way to kind of move the rain, move the water. I mean, there's several issues. The leak, it affected the cheer competition. They had, 10 to 14 different teams, and they had to hope it dried out and move the mats down. So it's very clear we need renovations in all our facilities. We need some other options. We don't have gym space. And I think as a town, we have wasted options for our theater programs like New Begin, like Pineland, and as a community, we need to dig into these resources. I don't think New Begin should be used as a cash revenue generator. We have a town that's got too good of a theater program and too much passion behind these boys and behind the system that they need to kind of think outside the box and troubleshoot a little bit more. And we're not gonna get this bond passed and these renovations and these new fields and these new courts right away. We need to make some options so when it leaks at the high school, they can practice at the middle school and we can bounce the YBA into other facilities. So I just think we probably need, as a community, to kind of think outside the box and make these adjustments because they need to be done. So yeah, we look forward to seeing you guys at the next game. Get there early, find a seat, because they're gonna need to. Thank you.
All right, but, sorry, before you go. Nope, come right up. But we're, anyone else who wants to speak, we're gonna have to wrap this up in the next 5 minutes so we can go on to our discussion. So if you are thinking about it, hop up and I'll start keeping time.
Hi, my name's Danielle. I was born and raised here. My grandparents, I think my grandmother has the first yearbook of this high school where it was still being built, and I can attest that it really hasn't changed a whole lot since then. I have 2 seniors on the varsity basketball team. I kind of wanted to just touch very quickly on, yes, ditto to everything that everybody has said thus far, but also we're building community here, and I have gotten so many messages and calls from the elderly community members that have nothing even to do with the students that are coming here. They just want to view the games. And some of them have been deterred because of the safety of our gym. Because they can't climb all the way to the top. Some of them do just to get the wall, and be able to have that support. But a lot of them can only make it up 1 or 2 bleachers, so they're right in the action. And so for them to be sitting that close to the action it's very, very scary to them and to anybody else that's connected to them. So anyway, I just kind of wanted to touch on that really quickly. And then, of course, the safety of the students playing is just a constant because it's a winter sport. There will never be a time that it's going to be clean on the sides, and there will also never be a time that the middle schoolers or children do not take 10 trips in and out of the gym. So finding another way to do it is really our only option right now, and I find that that's kind of sad. So yeah, I mean, ditto to everything else, but thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Carter Davis. I play for the boys basketball team. I'm a 3-sport athlete. I also play soccer and baseball. So I have a lot of connection with the fields that we use and all that stuff. So the soccer field, it started off amazing as Mr. Priest said, and throughout the season it just kept getting worse. We put on this spray painted logo, which looked cool at the time, but turned out to be part of the problem, which caused the field to get really muddy, caused players to slip, and caused some injuries, I guess, with people rolling ankles and small minor injuries, but they can still affect you in the long term. And then, so with that, we had to stop spray painting the field, obviously. And then with baseball, we have to spread out the times with lacrosse, track, and all that stuff. So with baseball, when we hit a foul ball or something, it can cause hitting the school, hitting cars, so it doesn't give us a lot of room to actually practice without something happening, injuring people. and we also don't have any stands with baseball field. So without any stands, it gets hard for elders or people with disabilities to come to the games who can watch their grandkid or something like that. And that's basically what I'm going to say. Basketball is pretty much covered, and thank you.
All right, so I do want to leave an hour for our committee to ask questions and have a discussion. This was incredibly invaluable. I wrote down every single word that you all said, and they'll go right into our notes and go right into the pieces that we share with the community moving forward. Also, you can email me at, how does our thing work? PCollins. What's the convention? First letter, last name. PCollins@sad15.org, and you can also order, email, even easier to remember, school board at SAD15. So if you think of something, or public speaking is not your jam, or you want to make a comment, you know, it's all going to go into this mix. So now this is actually just a workshop meeting of the board, so you're very welcome to be here. We're going to talk amongst ourselves now, and unless you're on the committee, the speaking opportunity is closed for now. So that's all. Thanks for coming. Okay. So we'll give people a sec to shuffle if they're going to.
Nice job back there, Chris.
Is it okay if I scoot over here towards the middle now?
What's the next step? Is there a time frame?
Yeah, so next week we're doing this very same thing, talking about performing arts. Would absolutely love to see people come out for that as well, where we're going to show what we have, talk about the opportunities. Then this committee will get together a week again after that. That is a totally public meeting just like this, and talk about, like, okay, what all did we hear? What do we recommend? What were these drawings useful? Do we want to go back to do we recommend going back to the architect and asking for new ideas? And those recommendations we make to the board, and then we'll keep moving from there.
Is that pushing on time for like a June bond, or is this November, or is this, what year are we talking?
We'll see. There's a real enthusiasm and sense of urgency, but also I really want to do it right. So, you know, what that looks like. And then when there is a proposal, it will come back to the public again, like here's what we think. What do you guys think? So there'll be more of that process as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Let's get your stuff in, slide down. I do want to check in with our folks if we're going to get a turnout from the performers people or email. Yeah, I think it would be really useful. Oh yeah, I'm asking to walk to push out to the I mean, they end at 5:30. So that just like a basketball game, you could come on over. I think it's effective. Okay. Okay. So we have an hour left. That was really helpful to me. I hope that was helpful for everyone else to hear as well. I want to backtrack a little and take clarifying questions for Nate on what we've seen, what we know, what we want to know more about, just like we did with the cafeteria, and then also go around and talk about impressions, ideas, concern, what do we want to know, like we did last time.
I was wondering, is there a way that we can get the hours that the community is using it? I thought that was a fair point, that we know the school hours, but really that's not including all of it. Is there a way to easily get that information?
The community-based hours,
Yeah.
so Patriot, soccer club, etc.
Yeah.
I can
Tara should be able to. Yeah, okay.
I have a question. It was raised very well by one of the students in terms of accessibility, and I'm just curious about if people with wheelchairs are trying to move in front of those bleachers, or is there a designated spot currently in the gym? How does that work? Because that's definitely not wide enough, that 3 feet with feet, as well as the fields. You know, how are we addressing that to make sure all children and all community members can participate?
That's a great question. So I haven't seen, as far as basketball season goes, I have not seen anybody come in yet with a wheelchair. We do have designated spaces if need be. Some of the bleachers do have a kind of a cutout section, if you will. You can keep it in and have a wheelchair placed there. The bleachers at the field are ADA accessible. We have the ramp that goes up, and there's places on the bleacher section for wheelchairs. So we did have handicapped individuals use the field, or the bleachers this year as well.
And getting onto the field is possible as well, because I know that can be an issue too. Like sometimes getting to the space where people have access can be a challenge. You feel like that's okay?
What do you mean onto the field?
So, like literally getting from the parking lot to where people sit.
Oh, yes. The distance is considerable, I think. I think that could be looked at, certainly. But as far as accessibility, it is accessible. Yeah.
So I know this didn't get brought up tonight, but I know it's obviously going to be a hot topic, and that's going to be turf. So due to the fact that we live in Maine, obviously we lose time on fields, usually at the beginning or end of the season, or generally beginning of spring, correct? So with that being said, I know that that kind of backs up into gym space possibly. Am I correct on that? So like if teams can't practice out on the field,
Yes.
they have to give up inside of a gym, which then could potentially back up another sport or bump or whatever. We're just fighting over more gym space, basically. So I know that that's going to be a hot topic, and that's going to be turf. So if we do a turf field, is that going to gain us time on the fields?
Absolutely.
Okay. That being said, the space that we have out here right now, baseball field, football field, softball fields, it's kind of a large square area. Is that something that can be reconfigured with the space that we have currently, do you think, to accommodate our sports, or do we still need to expand?
I think that it could be configured as it is. I've spent a lot of time thinking about that actual question. And I do think it can be configured. I think it should be configured. I think if we're going to spend the time to do this, I talked about the bleachers and how they face west and the sunset, and how it's very difficult on anybody working in the press box or the spectators themselves. So I think reconfiguring where the bleachers are and at the same time the field, I know lighting would be an issue as well. But I think if it's going to happen, it should happen. I think that makes a lot of sense.
I had another question about gathering student input. It was great to actually hear from some students, very brave of them. I wonder, we talked before about either potentially through advisory, gathering some input about kids' thoughts in terms of cafeteria or the cafetorium. Have we done a similar thing in terms of the gym and the athletic fields and kids' perceptions of what they would share, or could we?
Are you asking about for the gym and the fields? We could ask, could do a survey. The kitchen one, the cafeteria one was easy to do because it affects virtually every child. It's an experience for every child. Whereas, the gym or performing arts, you would have a narrower, but we could do that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think even though kids are not participating, although a third is a pretty good percentage in the athletic facilities, they may be going to watch their peers. I think they're definitely aware. So either way, whatever we get, I think would be helpful.
Yeah, I think Sadie and Crispin and Jade and Rick could work on that for both the middle school and the high school. They have advisory period. They could do a
QR code survey.
thank you.
And I think it'd be good to gather feedback from all
Right.
performing arts. I like to do it all.
Yes.
was thinking the same, that it's, I know it keeps coming up for student input, but that it would be really wise to go through our process of our 3 workspace sessions and then put together a meaningful, so we don't keep going back to the kids and like, oh wait, now we want to ask you about this thing. Okay.
I noticed that some of the kids have 3 sports, maybe more, who knows? I think I asked that one of the meetings have a breakdown, I don't know where it was, I know it's over here, wherever, but, how many kids, are duplicating the numbers. So the numbers, I think, are a little skewed right now, because it's everybody, even though they're in 3 different sports, they will be counted 3 times. So if there's anybody who can get that kind of breakdown, so we get a better picture of how many kids are really involved in the sports.
The percentage is based on,
Not percentages, numbers.
okay.
Yeah.
So you're talking about numbers for particular sports?
Yeah, for instance, just 2 students spoke and 2 of them in 3 sports.
Yep.
Okay, so they're part of that 600. And so it's 1 child.
Yep.
So there's only 1 child, but he's in 3, or she's in 3 different sports. So I think it'd be better to have a better handle on how many kids are really involved in the sports.
The numbers are broken down by season, so a kid wouldn't be in 3 sports in 1 season, it'd be spread out. So when they say they're a 3-sport athlete, they mean they play 1 sport in the fall, 1 sport in the winter, and 1 sport in the spring.
So the participation is still in all the sports, 1 child in 3 different things.
But are you,
different sports?
do you mean when you see like 600 people in the student body, 190 play sports, you're saying that some of them are, or is it 190 kids or 190?
190 total kids.
Kids.
Right.
I don't think it is counted like that.
In that particular
Yeah,
season.
it couldn't count them twice in the same season.
Pardon?
Yeah, it couldn't count them twice in the same season because they couldn't be on 2 teams.
But I mean, in general, it
In
doesn't
general.
say, like if a kid plays 3 sports, it doesn't say that's 3 kids that are in sports.
Correct.
It's just saying, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's insane.
I'm trying to think if I did. I was just, it brought up a couple times about injuries. Do we roughly know how many injuries are happening per season due to like the spectators drinking water or?
I don't know that off the top of my head, but we
Right.
do track that. Our athletic trainer tracks that, so that's information that she or Neil would have for the winter season. I could find out. I don't have that off the top of my head.
Might be harder on the fields, but if we knew like an injury specifically happened due to the field conditions, if we could have that number too. Just because I feel like injuries were brought up a couple times and there's obviously been
Yeah,
one.
we can certainly find out.
Okay, thank you.
So injuries are interesting because if you play soccer or you play football, there's going to be injuries. It's part of the game. What's hard to differentiate is you roll your ankle in soccer, that's normal, but how many of those are because the field's in bad condition? Or, you know, kids get injured playing basketball. There's one the other day, the kid totally dislocated his finger. That has nothing to do with the gym, it was just part of the game.
That's what I was saying, if there's a way we
If
can
it-
fix it.
exactly.
And get it down to,
It would be nice to know there was an injury because the kid went into the stands and hurt someone. So that would be harder, but I think would be interesting to know, you know,
yeah,
how much of it.
okay.
Yeah.
I get it, I mean, I remember injury with tree roots, I mean, I
Yeah.
feel like well, I want it,
Yeah.
I think we could look at our field sports, so field hockey, field cross, soccer, football, and we could dial in on that. We do track all of that, but it might be harder to figure.
But we've had some. We had someone reference a home game for a visiting team from Freeport, and I witnessed that injury. And even though we are technically within the minimum compliance of the National Federation of High School Athletics, had there been another 5 or 8 feet, that kid wouldn't have been injured or injured as bad in a you know, how often does that happen?
Well, I'm also concerned with what if, the standards were to ever change, hypothetically, because
Yeah.
of 4B.
Yeah. That's right.
Especially where it is if someone has their foot there.
Well, those
It's a very
standards have been
good-
developed, they haven't been around that long, the standards have changed over the years. When that gym was built, there wasn't a standard like that, right? When I was athletic director in 2002, there wasn't a standard from the at that time, so.
I have one. Sadie, can you talk at all about the usage of, and we had a really great information on athletics specific, but knowing like we use every inch of the building at all times, what kinds of usage are we also seeing from running a school?
Yeah, no, I actually took notes to make sure to add that. So in addition to the sports, right now currently, every block we have at least 2 PE classes running. Blocks 3 and 4, we have 3 classes running, which again, in the fall and spring, when they can go out in the fields and have that space, we have the room. This fall was a little more challenging with all the rain. But otherwise, we have this space here for 1 class, and then we fit about 50 to 60 students at times in the gym, which is a lot of students, especially the majority of fitness classes are freshmen, sophomores, and it's been very difficult. So we're kind of paring down on class offerings and sizes, which is unfortunate because we have a lot of students that want to participate in the classes, but we just don't have the room for it, especially in the winter months. But we know our semesters all go into the winter. So a semester is September through January, and then January through June. So we're trying to maximize as much as possible, but.
Are any of the phys ed classes housed in the weight facility?
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah, we do have, if we do a strictly only weight room class, we max out at about 12 students. So we like to do ones like Lifetime that they do different activities and not just an entire semester in the weight room. But this current semester we did do just weight room classes. Again, that gives us one more option to be able to fit. But it's a very small space to be able to supervise and properly.
Question on the Alpine skiing. Where did they, I'm sorry, were you all done?
Yes, yeah.
On the Alpine skiing, where is that performed?
Lost Valley and Pleasant Mountain. So
Okay, I kind of thought so. So they still have the youth, you know, the younger students going to Lost Valley, correct?
not youth, this is high school. We don't have a
No, I'm
building.
talking, okay, I was doing the theater program. So you didn't know that was in my mind. So, you know, the kids that across the school, and the other schools are taking the bus up to Lost Valley. And then I noticed that there's no Alpine skiing in middle school, but then there is for high school.
Correct.
So if it's a theater program, why is there a gap between, middle school and high school?
We don't have any ski trips from the elementary schools.
Not anymore?
No.
Well, that was my initial question. No.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why it was stopped?
I've been at Dunn 13 years, I don't remember ski trips ever, we never
Well,
had.
I was a chaperone for quite a few years, so I didn't know there was.
Yeah, no, I'm just
Okay.
saying, it's been a long
Yeah.
time since.
It's been a long time that I've been, down there too, but.
Yeah, I think they do offer the after-school ski lessons at Lost Valley, but you sign up for that like directly with Lost Valley, and they
For
come.
the bus from the.
I don't
No,
think
we do
anymore.
Or is it Park and Rec?
We do not bus from the school.
Park and Rec probably is doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the teachers who run the school bus, I'm sorry, when I started, the teachers, so it was Russell School and it was the school program.
I don't remember being a school program. I thought that was a winter kids program. Yeah, that was a totally, they facilitate through the school, I remember, but
I
back
was
in
just
my
thinking
day.
of continuity and a feeding program, so
Yeah.
it doesn't matter right now. I was trying to get a picture, that's all.
No,
Okay.
Sorry, one more question for you, Stevie, on the, in addition to the PE classes, pep rallies and stuff, what are we doing those things?
Yes. So pep rallies, we have the entire student body and staff in the gym.
tight fit.
Now that I just went down there, I'm like, I gotta think of that.
Yes, it is very cramped.
As magical as you think it would be.
It's very loud. It's a lot of fun, but we do fit the entire student body, and again, they are packed. Each grade level, so freshmen will have their own section, sophomores, juniors, seniors. And then a lot of the times the faculty stand sort of in that area, but they don't fit into bleachers with the students.
Sure.
What is the capacity of the gym?
Roughly 400. Roughly.
Okay.
So that you're
Very
getting
small,
600.
very small.
Okay, so we think the official capacity is about 400 people.
Roughly.
Roughly. Okay.
On the soccer field, I've been to games here, you know, from other schools, with other schools, it's a soccer field. And I know in Greeley, they have a field, I mean, very big square, and it's like 4 or 5 teams on the field at once. You know, the net's set up, you know, just crossing every which way. You know, I think back, maybe there's 10 of them on the field, but at one game, at one session, different games, one session. When they came to play here, it was just that I only saw that one field over by middle school. Is there a different field?
So currently, we can do a soccer or football game simultaneously with something on the lacrosse field and the track. So the maximum the high school could do on a game day, they could have 3 events at once. And we usually do around homecoming in the autumn, that the track is used and the field hockey field and the football/soccer field are used simultaneously. And then middle school could be having something on their own.
Penny, just for clarification, and I can get the exact numbers, I do have it right in my office, but about 1,300 is the capacity for the gym. But there is a certain capacity with bleachers out, and then some have bleachers certain sections up, and then it's also putting fans all around the entire. And I remember thinking when we had one student score 1,000 points, and was packed. But I don't see how we could ever fit that many people. I mean, even 600, our student body is packed.
I think 1,300 is probably including floor space.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, like a fire pit, but like
Correct.
right. So you can have your pep rally.
Right.
We can keep the pep rally. But we do use the floor space for chairs sometimes as well for any events. But
Yep. Okay. So I cannot imagine 1,000 people in that space, even
we
standing.
did for one of the games, and it was really, or when John Martin scored the 1,000 points.
Wow. All right.
One question I have, you shared a lot of information with us about the field and the gym and the lockers, which are interesting. I'm also curious, one of the things we asked when we were thinking about the cafeteria and needs is, do we need to include in any recommendations equipment upgrades, or is that a separate budget line, or is there anything facility-wise such as bleachers or those kind of things that we need to consider as part of this proposal?
I would say yes. Bleacher space, having a separate area for visitors, that should be considered. Possibly lighting. I don't know when the last time the lighting was updated, if it's LED. I think there's some considerations that need to be made. Sound system, I'm not sure what the history is there, but
Lighting.
on
The
fields.
field lighting.
Okay.
And I would say for health, and I think it's in the plans, we're using porta potties for the Lincoln company, and that might be fine for a 6-week construction project, but that's our permanent, and we're serving food, and there's no, so I would some of the proposals that have already been drawn by some of the architects do call for running water facilities, so toilets and bathrooms. Yeah, if you're gonna have hundreds and hundreds of people spend several hours and there's no place to go to the bathroom to wash your hands, it's beyond embarrassing. It's a sanitation issue, I really believe.
We can do better.
What's that?
We can do better.
I mean.
Right? Hopefully.
I mean, just one more, I think, to make sure it's even the locker rooms. I know we all like and saw the locker rooms, but to have showers and locker rooms and privacy and stalls that, as you can tell, I mean, they're just very old. So in addition to the lockers, I think
So on that walking tour, it was mentioned to remove the lockers, the red lockers, and put them into the area. Remove the broken ones and all that. Is there a reason why that can't be done? It was suggested that it could be, but I don't know. I mean, is that something that could be done? Remove the red lockers, because they're not using them, basically, and just instead of buying new ones, which was what we already had, that looked brand new. And then the showers, I was under the impression that kids aren't using the showers because they don't want to shower. I mean, I don't think it was like privacy, it was privacy in there.
There were no
But I'm
doors.
not sure what
there were no
I-
shower curtains and doors. So we do have some students that will use the shower in our nurse's office.
They use it when it's like-
They'll use the shower in our nurse's office, or they'll use different locations for privacy, primarily because they have, in that space, even if there's a shower curtain, that's all they have. So there's no like kind of stall around it. Very limited privacy in there.
So is it factual that the kids are not using the red lockers, like their gym classes and things like that, or are they still?
I can't speak to gym classes. So
I think I think you're referencing the lockers in the hallways, correct? Yeah. So the lockers, as you walk down the hallways, a majority of the lockers, those are not used. There was some discussion on, can they be moved, can they not? I know for certain sports, they're just too small. Like to put all the equipment, like football equipment in different team sports, those are very thin. But even for PE classes, they would be sufficient. But they didn't know what was behind the floor, what was behind those lockers, because again, they've been there for quite some time.
Just thinking about the kids are using those to take their clothes to change, it seems like it should be in the locker room space versus them having to go outside into the hall, get their clothes in.
And they do use the locker room lockers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the blue lockers in there were particularly shocking and sad.
They're the newer ones, because we had those put in at, the last time the renovation was done to accommodate football, because we didn't have anything for the fit football equipment. So at that time, those were installed, so they're not as old as some of the other ones.
Yeah.
But
They're taking some abuse.
yes, it's all our.
Yeah. Question, but to that end, Diane, just for people who don't have the benefit of being in like all the meetings all the time, not to put you on the spot, but some of the stuff we talk about, I hear like comes up in something that might be in a capital plan or maybe in a budget discussion, like how do you see the wisest use of this project of like, do we pause? What do you keep moving forward with versus like, well, if we're talking about this, let's hang on the locker room, or like, actually, we should do this now. You know what I'm saying?
So most of this conversation and this work that we're talking about, you would want to capitalize and you would want to do a bond for most of it. So unfortunately, since we've been talking about that simultaneously with the capital project, when you have things like locker rooms on the capital project, which we've had the high school locker rooms, we've had the middle school locker rooms, and other projects, they keep moving down thinking that we're gonna put them into a bond, so something else would take their place. So that we could do a complete project instead of just fixing the locker rooms, and then the next year or two, we decide we're gonna do something different, and then we might have done this for not be able to capture what we've done and relocate it or whatever. So you try to, do that. So unfortunately, some of those projects keep moving down, since we have been talking about a bond since, 2015, 2014, we've been
Right.
working on it and trying to get that passed. So unfortunately, that's what's been happening.
Right, and you
But those
think
things
that
happen
does
on the
make
capital
sense, is my question, like it. Or there comes a, but those are things you guys are always looking at, right? Saying, hold
Yeah,
on,
and agree with everything else that has to get done, and you have to
And
prioritize.
things
I think we really only have 150 to 200,000, the max we've had a few years is 300,000 in the capital plan, and it doesn't go all that far.
Right. I just know that I keep hearing locker room everywhere, and it's like, but it doesn't really make sense. If we could move this forward, then why would you go put in a new locker room that maybe?
And unfortunately, with the locker room, they get abused.
Right.
So, you put new ones in, and then how are you gonna know that they're not gonna be treated the same? It's one of those things where, how much time and energy do we spend if they're gonna use them and trash the lockers and sinks and things like that? So, kind of a catch-22. Like, are we gonna replace them, or are they gonna take care of them?
Right. Well, no, because they have no prefrontal cortex, yeah. It is.
But then it's hard to say what one class of kids did, and then,
Right.
different, temperament of kids coming in and stricter, and, so it's only part of the equation.
Yeah, yeah.
And Penny, looking at, I know some people have mentioned adding for the field time our youth programs. I think it'd be also important to add our classes.
Yeah.
Because we have approximately between 50 and 100 students out there at least 3 times a day for 3 different blocks. They're 75 minutes each. I know sometimes our fields crew will have the fields ready to go for a game. And again, this fall weather, our classes are out there. And then now it's a mess. And even if they could try to go on a field hockey field versus, so I think that would just be in those numbers, just to have an estimate of, because that's a significant amount of time overall.
And Penny, just to go back on that for a second, I think that having the kids have a say and, voicing their opinion and wanting this makes a difference as well. They're gonna be more committed to keeping the space, improved and want it to be nice. And I think that has a huge impact as well. So, continue to have the voice is really important on this. And I think, unfortunately, I think that's part of the conversation today that was really as far as, fields. We're kind of in basketball season, and it's indoor season, so we're not getting as much information that I think would be helpful for some of the spring and fall athletes that play outside.
Yeah, for sure.
I just think that is a whole other conversation that we're kind of missing a little bit. So, I don't know how to capture that, but I think we do need to hear a little bit from them, what their feelings are on some of those things.
Yeah, we need to get their input, and I think they were a great representation in the theme of that's what we're gonna hear from everybody, of like, we love our
Right.
team.
Oh, I
and
agree. I
right,
agree.
and they all need it, but we could get some details from them, and I really like what you're saying about having them have some pride and ownership, because when you think everything's the worst, you treat it like it's the worst.
I like the common theme of so many people who spoke today were just the cross-section. Like, yes, we're here for athletics and we value, but we also see the benefit in the arts. And I just think having that voice was really neat. And then I just want to throw out the question, do we think it would be beneficial to have a draft survey ready for when we meet on February 6th? So that way it's a starting point. So I don't mind bringing one. And again, it's just a draft, it can be changed. But just so we have that starting point, so we can hopefully, if we want to push that out right after that, do that.
Yeah, and we could even share that amongst the team and come prepared to talk about it at that too, if time permits. Would be great. And also staff, it might not be the same questions, but, you know, the staff know this place inside and out. Both the teachers, faculty, but also our administrators. You're seeing the same cost year after year. You know what the trends are of like, been there, done that. You know, what things should we be? I mean, we have people who have been here for a long time in a number of different roles. And I wasn't here for the last go with this, and I know a lot of work was done, but it sounds like we're getting some interest and support, and I want to really also hear the voices of our staff and not be fearful that we know there's a lot of pride in our district, and so it's okay to say things that you'd like to see or you think we could do better, and that's not in any way speaking out of turn. You know, we're trying to support, as Ann has pointed out to us, our customer service focus, which is the kids. So
I just want to piggyback on that. In preparing for this tonight, I did speak with half a dozen or so stakeholders and kind of get their feedback, and they do offer a lot. And having gone through kind of a similar project at a former district that I worked at over in Bath, staff and kids can offer a tremendous amount of input for sure.
We know a lot of our staff live within the community, they're going to be our voice as well. And so I think they have felt and just kind of left out of some parts of the process and just their feedback. So I think some people who have not been directly involved would really appreciate having that opportunity just to share their thoughts.
yeah, and then we have that support from them when we go try to get something to happen. We need to get people to campaign for us. Cool.
I don't have a question, I'll just make a kind of an observational comment. I was here obviously for the listening session last year, and we did that. I think I saw a lot of people, the same people here tonight as that were at that one. The one thing I took away, if anybody read into that folder at all and listened, you know, one of the things that hit me the most out of some of the comments that got left were, obviously they want it, but they want it done right. I'll be honest, I was kind of feeling myself that we were leaning more towards upgrading possibly field space, maybe doing an auditorium, a new cafeteria, stuff like that. A gym was mentioned. There was a need for it. Everybody kind of said it was. We knew in the back of our heads that was the space that we needed. But the cost was, and I'm just throwing out figures that were going around at the time. Obviously, these aren't really doing the field upgrades is about, we're looking at 15 million. We're looking at doing a gym, that's another 15 million just for the gym. So I know that's obviously, that's a big number and that scares a lot of people. But after listening to people here tonight with multi-sports and everything else, seeing what our fields are, what our needs are, obviously the auditorium, things like that, and just my personal opinion is that I don't know as if we'd be doing credit to the community if we don't consider the gym. I think that's a very big piece of this project. Obviously our gym isn't adequate enough as it is right now, so either we need to modify that or build it. And again, I'm not an engineer, so I don't know if that space can be engineered anymore to make it accommodate what we need. But I definitely think that we need to make sure that that is a priority because the need is there. And I think if we don't do it, we will not be doing this project right now.
And I kind of got the same impression as Cole. Like that was not really the focus of what we've done. It was an afterthought. And I think that really needs to come to the forefront. I think that for the community, for students, for staff, for our usage every day, it just really seemed to rise to the top a lot tonight, just because of all the deficiencies and the use. And yeah, I think there was a lot of good information today that really had you thinking about how this project and prioritization of the projects.
And the revenue that you bring for some weekend tournaments like Crossroads or like a basketball tournament, just bringing back to the district as well in addition to.
Yeah, and I think we're gonna see those opportunities, that might be something this committee wants to recommend we look at on all the fronts, both for the gym, for the fields, for the auditorium. We don't really advertise a lot of the play stuff because the seats are terrible. But you know, Wyndham Middle School, they pull in $25,000 at the gate for a middle school performance because the community comes, you know, to it. So, I mean, not that we're obviously not gonna pay for this with tickets, let's be reasonable, but, and I think that there's a lot of things that I started picturing these as separate issues, but if we had it, okay, so say we looked at the gym, well, does that free up this space to go with a new cafeteria footprint because we don't need, you know, like how do these things start dominoing against each other? And I know there was some earlier things. Craig, how much do you know or remember about where this all, like I know, or someone who was there, I know there was like you know, there's a drawing of the gym, but it was like they plopped it down in a spot we didn't, right? Was this the people we didn't love? What
Yeah,
happened?
and that would have
Okay.
been March 20 of 2020.
Yes,
They
that's
shut
2020. And these people we liked better, but then COVID hit, right? Like, kind of went a
Exactly.
different direction.
So there were multiple options. One of the companies that we used, we were very clear in what we were looking at and what we liked. And then they came up and really didn't do any of them. It's like, I want to buy a Chevy Malibu, and they came back with a Cadillac. So we didn't, that's the company we didn't like. But there was a second company that did do a really good job of listening to what we said, and there were multiple options that we could use. And I can't speak beyond that too much. We do have all the documentation on that. Diane, can you speak to that more?
Yeah, so the same architect that was working on the performing arts space, you know, it was an afterthought. You know, we should probably look at doing a gym as well. One of the suggestions was because we might need to take the space to do that space. So what they were looking at is doing it on the other side where the parking lot is, on the other side of the existing gym. So adding another gym to that side, you know, obviously the challenge is hard touch space and adding parking. So we started looking at a lot of trees and, you know, having to add more parking and what that would look like. We did not spend a lot of time and effort into it. I mean, to me, you know, we need to add bathrooms, we need to do stuff for outside, regardless of whether we do fields or not. If we do just one big performance field, we have some designs on some of that. You know, if we did a gym, my suggestion would be we add the bathrooms right to the end of it, so we're not having to necessarily, you know, put bathrooms out in the middle of the fields. We add a snack shack, you know, there's a lot of different components that we can do. But the space that the first space we looked at, and I don't know that that's even viable, like I said, an afterthought, was I think right on the other side of the gym. Kind of attached to it on the other side of that building.
Diane, is the courtyard off limits here or what?
We talked about it. It really is a component of the school. We talked about putting a gym in this whole space. It's not off the table. That certainly was a conversation taking, you know, between this and the courtyard. We could fit a gym in here so that, you know, it's not necessarily off the table.
Is it heavily used, the courtyard?
They do use the courtyard, yeah. They have classes out there, they have lunches, they have.
I remember having lunch.
Yeah. They have gardens out there.
Yeah, it's actually quite pleasant, especially in the warmer months. Our kids will go there for a quiet place. They eat lunch out there. They used to grow tomatoes out there. They plant flowers out there. And it's a nice way to cut across the two wings, get some fresh air. When I interviewed here, whatever, 8 years ago, it was one of the nicest things I liked. I thought, oh, this is really, really pleasant. And school was in session, and it was sort of this college campusy kind of. But that's my 2 cents. If you were to build out into the courtyard, I I don't know if you would be losing a big aesthetic.
I would hate to lose the court. I don't know, some of my fun of going to school.
But I think everything would be on the table. I
Yeah.
mean, we'd have to look at the best space, and if we took that, what are we replacing it with? You know, that you'd have to do something equally as nice for those students, so, you know, I would think that every space would be on the table.
Right, but something could pop up elsewhere.
Right, so, you know, I don't know, do a rooftop garden, I don't know.
Oh, on that, to go with that mezzanine cafeteria, I love it.
Yeah, so I don't know, I just, everything has to be looked at, I think.
On top of the gym. Little stuff done.
Yeah.
Some of us do stuff like that.
What you don't want is like Mount Ararat, as you might know, after all the events you go to, you might as well, plan on, taking lunch or something to get out of that. And they have a lot more space than we do. And to get to 26, back it must be. So as you're expanding and growing, and having more people, you have to think about all that parking. And that's a big issue, but it's very frustrating up there, all the events.
Yeah, our back parking lot, high school, it's adequate, but if you have any kind of event, it's frankly a little dangerous, I would say.
Which is a big flip, because getting in there and getting out of it for regular schools.
Yeah.
You know, we do have 15 acres back there that are very usable, with 28 acres, that's 15 are real usable, and
Back here.
Yeah.
An extra 15
Running
acres.
pair, yeah.
28 acres actually.
Wow.
Really usable. So,
Away from the school, so it's
It's
more
over
like
past
this.
the softball field.
Oh,
that
okay.
way.
So it would be potential.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I mean, yeah. So we could expand, and we took some of the field space down.
Right, we took away space, right.
You know, I mean, there are a lot of options. They have price tags, you know what I mean? So, you know, there's a couple of different lenses that you look at. And you can have a plan to face it. It's not all once and done, you know, I mean.
So I think of making a list of all these different options and all, and see how they would fit into planning, I think is important. I think that's what she was getting at too.
Yeah,
You
something
know,
that's
because they're all scattered right now. I feel everything's scattered and needs to be brought.
It would be nice for like the architect to kind of see everything, instead of having it sort of
Exactly.
like, if you're going with one project and then you say, oh, let's add on this, a gym, like that's a big add-on. It would be, I think it would be helpful even for the architects if you give us a full list.
And they'll bring it together.
And they bring it all.
They will, you know, they're looking at it from a very specific lens, and they will take all that input and say, you know, you can see their brains working.
Almost like a comprehensive plan, and you can choose the parts that make sense.
I think it'd be nice too, we talked about getting buy-in from the students, for like survey questions. I think it would be nice to show them once we get designs and just have them look at it, because there might be something that they say, that looks great, but it's not actually gonna work. So I think that would, and it would help them with that buy-in piece of it's so important.
One thing that I've been trying to encourage since we started this years ago, the Russell Memorial Gun Parents.
Yeah.
If your kid's a freshman, you know, and the parents that were here tonight, you know, their kids are juniors and seniors, and they're supportive, but if I were a townsfolk with the second grader and the fifth grader, I would want to be here, because this is what's, you know, yeah, this is for kids 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now. It's not for kids that are 9th grade and 10th grade. So if anyone has any idea on trying to reach out to those parents, because it's going to be their school, and it's going to be theirs for the next 13 years.
I think you can get them excited about it, but with them not being in it in the day in, day out, and
It's abstract.
It's a little, it's, as a done parent, it just, you know it's around the corner, but it doesn't feel around the corner. So.
Yeah, these wonderful kids now could help us design the right thing, and then we gotta go sell it, then we gotta go get the attention of those younger families.
But I think it, once we have the mock-ups and we get the feedback, like, we have them at the schools, even in the middle school, right? We show it to the middle schools, like, this is, what are your thoughts, and then they change for the high school and stuff like that.
So we are about out of time. I want to, a couple things, offer a last comment or thought to anyone who's been holding on to something. I mean, we have more, stay in touch, please email me, keep meeting, but, and along those lines, the second piece is we're going to continue to work to the timeline that we set and keep doing the next right thing, but it feels like what we're discovering is that this is a big project, and the enthusiasm goes up as people feel like we're doing it right. So I would love to hear from people as well, their ability or interest to continue working as this group if our work takes us past the immediate timeline is something. So we'll have one more, we'll have Performing Arts next week, and then a week that we've kicked out because of snow to talk about, okay, well, what do we make of all this? Like a very workshop-y time. I will come prepared with some big sheets or something creative that will highlight some of the things that we said or heard over and over about generally, and then each space, and then hope we can kind of like narrow what we recommend in big terms, or what we would want to ask the board to look at, but then report out to the board and potentially ask, that we to continue to stay on as a committee as information comes in, and be a bit of a sounding board. So think on that.
Do we know what architect we're going to use when we do get everything together? And would it make sense to bring them into the fold now? Because I'm afraid we're going to get everything together, say, here you go, and they say, okay, great, give us 3 months. You know
So
what I mean?
originally, we were going to have them, I had invited them to the next meeting where we were going to do the wrap-up so that they would hear it.
Okay.
Since we've changed the date, they're not available, so we will plan to have them come to listen to everything. I would say, yes, we're still gonna stay with the same Activitas for the fields and RVC for the buildings. We were very pleased with them, we have no reason not to at this point. But yes, you were right on track that we need to have them come listen to what we're saying. In the past, I've sent them the videos for them to watch of all the meetings, so I will certainly give them the links for them to go watch, which I know they have, so that they can hear that as well, because I do think that that's important.
Yeah, I didn't think that. That's great, because we hope to have them in our last meeting, but we said they can watch it.
And so we may have just a small meeting that whoever can come, when the architects are available to come, so I'm sure we'll put that out, and we'll put that out there and share with you, and if anybody's available to do that, that would be great.
Yeah. So are you going with the same architect you had before? Is that the idea, or?
Yes, and we had gone out to bid for them already.
Oh,
We had already gone out to bid and did this, and we just kind of put it on hold, so we've already done the process of hiring the architects. Activitas is one of the best ones around about there, the fields, and then RBC is really good. Mobile platform, some of the projects they've done, and very impressive, and seems very good to work with.
So just watch your email too, in case we're gonna have our arts folks check in with those families. If we get a sense that we're gonna have a showing next week, we may well be right back in here, so dress in your layers. Otherwise we'll be in the library. And please continue, I'll keep growing our notes and send me thoughts or questions you have, and I'll just keep adding them and sharing with our group. All right, did you hear?